So, should we start?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
I'm ready.
So we covered this slide, and I gave you the common factors. There were 5 things we considered in these common factors for designing a good portfolio governance structure. Right? Legislative, regulatory, decision making, alignment to the organization governance, and alignment to the organizational culture. Now, I don't think we need to define all that, but you can read it through. Legislative may benefit from governance designed for direct interaction with the legislative authorities, regulatory component selection, and throughout the component's life cycle. So that, for that matter, proposed components for portfolio decision making, decision making responsibility at level where competence, accountability, and authority reside. And what else? Okay. As far as the alignment with the organizational governance is concerned, uh, when designing portfolio governance practices, these considerations you must keep into account, right? Types of governance practices that should be in place for the portfolio component. Specifically, if you are developing a governance structure for your for your component, for a program or something, so which of the governance practices need to be further elaborated? For example, you are developing a program governance framework for someone for some program under you, then probably you have to look at that which practices apply there. Factors such as contracting of resources, risk of component failure, etc. Component level of importance from low to strategically important. So that is project management offices, program management offices, and how they will support component from a governance perspective. And what is the component life cycle? The program life cycle might be different from a project life cycle or operational life cycle. So what is the specific component for you for which you are providing the governance framework, and the experience of the component teams applying the life cycle process. This much is for the organizational governance alignment. As far as the cultural alignment is concerned, I think I said in so many words, culture influences the way of thinking and acceptance of governance. You see, culture may not be something written down in the books. It may not be in the rules, but this is maybe it is the local culture that people um, sit or stand in a specific manner. They respect each other in a specific manner. They maybe like Japanese bow down to pay their respect, while in other countries maybe there are different cultures, right? So whether it is written or not, cultural values must also be aligned with whatever the organizational um, portfolio governance you are trying to create. So effective portfolio governance, design factors as you have already seen, uh, a legislative environment, regulatory environment, and so on and so forth. I've already discussed these. Coming over to the portfolio governance roles, that is about a very important factor in the portfolio governance. What are going to be the various roles and responsibilities? Establishing an appropriate collaborative relationship, because it's not only about the portfolio you're talking about. You are going to be creating subordinate governances also. So how the components of the portfolio are likely to interact with each other, right? How they are going to be integrated. So individual responsible for portfolio governance is critical to the success of the portfolio in delivering the value the organization desires. So we are establishing an upward link with the organizational governance, and portfolio governance with its integration and all is a mechanism, is a critical success factor. Portfolio managers leverage the portfolio governance board to help establish organizational conditions that support the goals of the portfolio. So that is a portfolio governance level. We have a portfolio governance board or a steering committee, whomsoever. So basically, those are the people who establish the portfolio governance structure for you. So what do they do? Their activities could be naturally they establish it, then they monitor escalated portfolio risk that may impact the financial value of the portfolio. The portfolio component mix used to achieve the organization strategy and objective, they have an eye on that, right? I'm remember, I'm not talking from the sense of specific control, because portfolio will be controlled by the portfolio manager, but there are certain information which has to be transmitted upwards, as if the governance board would know how well the governance of the portfolio is working. So these are the three things. First of all, escalations of issues and risks. Secondly, how well the organization's strategy and objectives are being implemented. How good is the portfolio component mix? Although the decisions are being taken by the portfolio manager as far as the selection of the components of the portfolio are concerned, but how well are those decisions taken? So governance board is going to have an eye on that, the impact to the organization's capacities and capabilities. So whatever the portfolio is doing, how is it impacting the organization? Is the capacity of the organization and capability of the organization is growing, increasing? So this is the level of monitoring the governance board likes to have. It is not a micromanagement, monitoring, but the governance board wants these things to know, as if they can, maybe if they have to bring any changes into the governance structure or the framework, they could advise that at any time. But this is sufficient knowledge for them to make their decisions. Moreover, when the portfolio manager would be developing the governances for its subordinate component, the same rules may apply. I mean, similarly, you could be the governance board for the program or the project. In that case, you would be doing these activities at the head of the program or project level as a sponsor of the project or program, and that's how the thing would be trickling down to lower level of governances. Establishing a collaborative relationship, very important for the portfolio among the members of the portfolio governance board, of which the portfolio manager or portfolio owner is often the chair. Now, I would not say that portfolio manager is the chair of the portfolio governance board, because governance board is something could be headed by the portfolio owner or the sponsor. But I would not like to say that portfolio manager chairs the portfolio governance board, because that would be very ambiguous. Portfolio manager is a manager. How could he chair the governance board? I don't like that statement. Yeah, portfolio owner or sponsor, that is fine. But why they have written it like that is probably because in small organizations we do not have a distinctive roles of a portfolio owner or a sponsor or a portfolio manager. So probably in that case, if there is only one role, portfolio manager is doing all that. So probably in that specific case, he could chair it. But that is, I would say, it is grammatically wrong to say that portfolio manager is heading the governance board. Manager is manager. How could he be heading the governance board? Anyways, this is also critical to the ultimate success of the organization. Meaning, the main point was collaborative relationship with the portfolio board members. Of course, why not? Portfolio managers may be assigned responsibility and accountability because naturally the governance is coming to you. You are not creating the governance. So your responsibilities and accountabilities have been defined in the framework for effectively managing your portfolio in pursuit of organizational goal. And who authorized it? Portfolio Governance Board, or you can say the portfolio owner or sponsor, if that exists. Normally, in most of the cases, portfolio governance board may not have, because governance board has got more than one people, so they may be jointly heading it, and there could not be there may not be a distinguishable portfolio sponsor, right? But in case of projects and programs, we do have a distinguishable uh, sponsor for programs and projects. Anyways, that
Is
is another
the
discussion. Yes, please.
is the governance board different than the sponsor? Because the sponsor may not be a single person. I mean, it can be, but the sponsor is part of a group also. But is that
Sponsor
different?
sponsor is always supposed to be a single person,
Okay. And so
right?
that's
When
different than the governance board.
from the project, program, and portfolio perspective, please don't take it from the grammatical perspective. Um, there's a difference between stakeholder and a sponsor, right?
Oh, yeah,
Stakeholders
that's
could be
right.
many, but
Right.
sponsor is ultimately the one single boss.
So that is different than the
In
governance
case,
board.
yeah, but in case of a portfolio, because there's a too high a level, so if there is not a specific portfolio sponsor or owner defined, then whole of the governance board takes on the responsibility of that job. Got it?
Yeah.
When doing so, a portfolio manager assumes a responsible role for the governance practices within the governance domain. So, uh, well, even if he is the portfolio manager is not the author of the governance of the portfolio, at least he is an instrumental member in developing or creating it, right? So he has got major role in governance domain, not only developing the governance framework but implementing that governance framework. Then the accountability of the governance roles may reside with whom? Who could be accountable for the governance roles? Head of the business unit, the chief operating officer. So these are the people who may be the members of the governance board, CIO,
This is
or
my
any
question
other
right
field
here. Yeah.
director.
Yeah. Yeah.
Portfolio governance structures are best defined in a manner that is specific to the principles and needs of each organization. That is exactly why, at such a high level, portfolio is a very high level, it is very difficult to define the profile of a portfolio owner or a manager, owner or a sponsor. So that is more of a godlike person, which does not exist, and therefore we say that it is the responsibility of the governance board, and those people who are accountable, they could collectively form the governance board, right? So yes, of course, governance is too big for a single person. Yes, if there is no portfolio sponsor, we still can live with it because portfolio governance structure will take care of that. The relationship between the portfolio governance and portfolio management function, we already understand, we have described that, often is managed by assigning key roles to individuals. People have got their duties assigned who are part of those functions and recognized as key stakeholders. So these are the various portfolio governance roles. So what do we have here? We have critical collaborative relationship between the portfolio manager and the governance board. We talked about the portfolio sponsor, their roles and responsibilities and skills and influences, governance board, purpose, composition, and responsibilities. Portfolio audit organization. Portfolio, um, basically, this governance board is performing a kind of audit role, and they are trying to ascertain the value of the audit. Right? That's what we said when we are sending some reports back to the uh, governance board. They don't want to micromanage, but they do want to see from auditing point of view. So there was a slide where they were trying to monitor some of the things. Other roles in portfolio governance. Okay, what are the other roles? If there is an existence of a portfolio sponsor, yes, of course, this could be an individual who is responsible for championing the application of organizational resources to help meet the portfolio goals and objectives. Just like any other sponsor, like the project sponsor or a program sponsor, this is the boss of the project manager, the portfolio manager. He is the champion, he is the patron, and this is the person to whom the portfolio manager will always look up to help meet the portfolio goals and objective, realizing its intended value contribution, right? So this is a person who is going to always be concerned about the portfolio. This role frequently is filled by an executive member of the portfolio governance board, as we said, who has a senior role in directing the organization and its investment decisions. That is the main thing. The person must have this kind of authority, who is personally vested in the success of portfolio component and therefore value that the portfolio is creating for the organization. That is what a portfolio sponsor, if that is a role, that must be look something like that. In many organizations, the portfolio sponsor acts as the chairperson of the portfolio governance board. Now it clarifies. In a previous slide, it said portfolio manager or portfolio owner may be the chair of the governance board, which I did not agree, because I said portfolio manager has no powers over the governance board. How can he chair it? Remember that. But now it clarifies, in many organizations, portfolio sponsor acts as the chairperson. Yes, of course, I agree with it. Portfolio sponsor is definitely the role who could chair the governance board, but not the project portfolio manager. Definitely not. So, what are the responsibilities of the portfolio sponsor? Ensure portfolio goals and objectives are aligned with the strategic vision. Good. Provide oversight and feedback on delivery of benefits to enable success of the portfolio. That is also okay. Remove any barriers or obstacles. Like, we say in Agile, the Scrum Master is responsible for removing barriers and obstacles, right? So this is the role of the portfolio sponsor, that the portfolio manager, if they are having any barriers or obstacles, or they are held up somewhere and something is, kind of coming in the way of the portfolio success, so he will make it possible, because this person, portfolio sponsor, is with a lot of authority. Ensure funding related approvals. Naturally, funding decisions, he will facilitate that, because he's the person who is heading the governance board, and governance board has got all the decision makers. So naturally, he can ensure funding related approvals and provide necessary resources. Manage interaction between senior management and the portfolio management team. Naturally, this is the conduit who will make it possible that the senior management and the portfolio people can interact with each other. As a member of the chair, sponsor is integral to the fulfillment of governance responsibility. Critical that the organization allows the portfolio sponsor to perform the role effectively. Now, why does it say that? You do have a portfolio, you do have a portfolio sponsor, but you have not, this person is helpless, because it doesn't have any powers to make any kind of decision regarding the portfolio. So it is critical that the role is well defined and this person is enabled to perform that role. Sufficient time and resources should be provided to enable success. This is from the organizational point of view. The portfolio sponsor should have all those facilities and resources or whatever decisions he need to take. He should be capable of doing that. Skills and experience of portfolio sponsor impacts the effectiveness of the portfolio. So naturally, this guy is going to be a very senior person in the field of organizational project management who has maybe himself looked after a lot many portfolios for a couple of years. So he's now the portfolio sponsor. Probably he can understand uh, how things are working. Often the project portfolio sponsor is required to drive change through the organization so the operations can accommodate capabilities delivered by portfolio component. Sponsor is integral to communication and stakeholder process. I think this is a very good slide because portfolio sponsor roles are very clearly defined, roles and responsibilities and how he interacts and communicates with everyone. Typically, an effective portfolio sponsor uh, has these skill sets: organization-wide perspective, ability to influence senior stakeholders, ability to work across different stakeholder groups to find mutually beneficial solutions. He should have a lot of leadership skills, although this leadership skill is something we have been studying in project management, program management, portfolio management, and now we are talking about the portfolio sponsor at the higher level than even the portfolio. So, yes, of course, leadership skills might differ from situation to situation, but this is a high level leadership skills, decision making authority, and effective communication. So please don't think that these are the same responsibilities a project manager has. Yes, of course, project manager also needs some decision-making authority, some effective communication skills. But we are just keep that in mind. We are talking about a portfolio sponsor. So think from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Then comes the governance board, as we have already defined. There could be or any senior positions, CIO, CEO, whatever. They all could be part of the governance board, and one out of them may be the portfolio sponsor. Uh, Portfolio governance boards improve the likelihood that the portfolio governance domain is based on governance principles that guide the establishment of governance practices. It is just like a parliament making laws for the country, right? So this is the governance board making principles for the governance framework. So they have a big responsibility. The board should be well positioned to efficiently address governance issues or questions that may arise during the portfolio lifecycle. Often composed of executive level stakeholders, we know that they have got business knowledge, strategic insight, functional responsibilities, operational accountability, and so on and so forth. In some organizations, governance board may also be responsible for some portfolio management tasks. Why should that be possible? Well, if it is not a very large organization and you are running a portfolio, you don't have enough people to fill in these roles of governance board. Maybe the governance board people sitting in the governance board are directly contributing to the activities of portfolio management. So we have no problem with that. But you see, generally we must be able to segregate the people in governance board and people in working within the portfolio. In such cases where this situation occurs, portfolio governance board are often staffed by individuals who are either individually or collectively recognized as having organizational insight and decision making authority. Right? So I think you can make out the head and tail out of it that we can, in addition to the executive position, we can have some kind of subject matter experts, some kind of authoritarians who have got the authority to make certain decisions and all, who understand the strategic goals and objectives, such like things, because these people are going to be involved in these activities. Often portfolio governance board include senior leaders. We have talked about it. Portfolio governance board ensures portfolio is executed in an environment with appropriate organizational knowledge and expertise. So, well, we we understand this is just the explanation of what we already understand. Typically, the responsibilities of the board determining the governance framework naturally, which includes all of those functions, approving governance related policies and processes. So they are basically putting a stamp on it. Whatever the policies and processes are included in the governance structure, they are actually approved by them, stamped by them. Establishing component selection, categorization, prioritization, and authorization criteria, and reviewing and remediating escalated issues. How are we going to deal with issues and risks at the governance level? Because anything which remains unresolved at the portfolio level will have to be escalated to the portfolio governance board. How will they deal with it? How will they be able to deal with it? Responsibilities could also include ensuring whatever is happening is aligned with the organizational strategy, balancing the degree of organizational change required to achieve portfolio value, providing executive support in portfolio program and project, process alignment expectations, leadership in making, enforcing, carrying out communication decisions, defining key performance targets and threshold. We already talked about all these things. What is a key performance indicator? Uh, why are communication decisions important? So you see, it is just kind of listing down all what the governance board can be made responsible for. Influencing and directing multiple areas such as organization, communication, reporting, funding, investment measures, strategic direction, and all. Controlling allocation of resources. There are many components within a portfolio, how the resources will be distributed. Although I do understand and I agree that this is the responsibility of the portfolio manager to make these decisions, but the decision framework is provided by the governance board. So governance board is also responsible for establishing right kind of rules and regulations and policies as if they are doable by the portfolio manager. Determining risk and reward, reviewing and resolving conflict at the portfolio level, defining key messages to be communicated to stakeholders and organizations, reviewing performance and proposed recommendations to adjust the portfolio, reviewing and remediating escalated issues and risks. So, yes, that is it. Then comes the portfolio audit organization. Portfolio governance is acting as an audit organization. It includes the assignment of responsibility for ensuring that the component managers know that planned and ad hoc audits may be required. It is for the purposes of the governance board. Governance board wants to just ensure those things which they need to ensure. They are not trying to micromanage you, but they have to kind of take the health check of the components. So the component managers, the program and project managers must understand that there will be external audits from the portfolio audit. Maybe there is an external organization which has been assigned to conduct these audits, or maybe it is the members of the portfolio audit team itself. But you know, the components must understand that there can be audits from the audit organization. Audit assessments may be conducted by an internal or an external auditing body. I already explained. Component audits are frequently focused on, yes, this is important because from the portfolio point of view, from the governance board point of view, they might like to talk because they are responsible for giving the finances, how well the management and governance practices are behaving, risk management practices, strategic alignment, quality assurance and quality control at the portfolio level, not at the micro level, and any necessary component documentation. We are not concerned about what all is it according to our program management plan or not. We are not concerned about it, but the necessary information or documentation required by the portfolio governance board, as if they can, monitor things correctly. So if the necessary information or quality assurance or control feature is missing, probably they are trying to audit this. So please do not confuse it with other audits conducted at the program and project level. These are the audits specific for the purpose of the portfolio. Portfolio instigated audits. Now, there are many kinds of audit. These, we are talking about the portfolio instigated audits, may delegate their responsibility to some component governance board that, okay, we will not be coming for the audit, but the program governance board may assign someone to ensure these points for creating organizational and component specific plans for audits. So we are delegating the auditing authority to the component and with instructions that we should be getting a report of that kind of thing. Such plans often provide details on organizational policies regarding audit expectation, preparedness, standardization, and so on and so forth. Audits are sometimes viewed within the portfolio component as time-consuming endeavor that burden the component. We don't want to burden the component, but we have to find a way which is the most efficient and least time-consuming, and probably that was the reason why they delegated it to the next level. Yes, of course, that can be done, or we can utilize latest techniques like dashboarding and all, in which probably we need not do a lot of physical audits. It should be noted that audits are often valuable measures of component quality that help the component manager, portfolio manager, and other stakeholders identify areas of concern, thereby reducing risk of triggering corrective action. I think you can make the head and tail out of it because everything is linked with each other. So whole of the all the components, if they can keep an eye on these areas, we would be able to, maybe reduce the risk even before they are triggered. Also, an audit is a direct communication channel to senior management, allowing clear messages to reach the audit review team. Audit support provided a governance function, therefore contributes significantly to the eventual success of the component and long-term success of the portfolio. Anyways, there are other roles required to support portfolio organization, like these roles could be supporting portfolio governance and execution of portfolio component to ensure that defined goals are being met, or they could be roles where the governance team to determine the impact of changes, supporting any changes impacting the outcome of the programs and projects, representing the functional area on the governing body when applicable, and supporting portfolio governance related organizational changes. So we are done with governance. Any questions from your side?
No, not at the moment.
Good enough? So
Yes.
let us have a little bit of question answer. Portfolio governance ensures what? There are 4 options. Immediate project completion. B, accountability and transparency in managing the portfolio. C, technical project decisions. D, short-term financial gains. What do you say?
B.
Very good. Actually, these questions are not exactly like the questions you get in the exam, but they are good to test your knowledge, because there is
Yeah.
only one choice which is the most applicable. Like
Yeah.
immediate project completion is stupid choice. It should not be there. Short-term financial gains is not to be there. Technical project is in. What we have to do with the project? We're talking about portfolio. So obviously, B is the only option which is correct. Key function of portfolio governance is day-to-day team management. B, risk management at the portfolio level. Individual project design and short-term project execution. I think again it is very obvious. There is only one option which is pointing to portfolio. That is option
Yeah.
D.
E. Yeah.
In designing portfolio governance, it is important to consider what when we are designing. Try to remember when we said designing portfolio governance, what did we talk about? So look at these options. When designing portfolio governance, is important to consider only the financial aspect, the legislative and regulatory environment, short-term project goals, or individual team performance. C and D are anyways bad. They are not correct.
Yeah.
Out of A and B, only the financial aspect is wrong, because it is not only the financial aspect, other factors also. So B looks like the best answer, legislative and regulatory environment.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yes.
Yes. D, flexibility in portfolio governance design is important. Why? Adapt to changes in the organizational environment, focus solely on immediate profits, avoid long-term planning, or limit stakeholder involvement. What do you say?
A.
Adapt to changes in the organizational environment. And that is correct. Okay, we are done with the governance. So, any comments from your side? How well you understand now the concept of portfolio governance, and the whole thing we studied here in this chapter?
Yeah. No, it was interesting. It clarified the difference between the sponsor and the governance board and kind of who does what. So I think it was definitely clarified that what should be coming from the sponsor versus what the portfolio manager is. I think I probably didn't understand that concept correctly going in, where my understanding would have been that the portfolio manager is doing everything. So that definitely was a clarification point for me.
Yes.
And just understanding how the governance, flows from the top down. What's one of the points that's still puzzling? I think that's it. Just making sure I got a clear understanding of that part. Be the best thing. And then my other question about the point of the portfolio governance being what you're trying to achieve, transparency, accountability. That's something that I wrote down. It's still standing out. Yep. As far as one idea that would need to be implemented, I don't think I was trying to think of a governance board at my company. I don't know if I can think of it. I can't put my finger on what that is. So I need to think about that. Maybe it's there as far as the people. There definitely people who are there. I mean, I'm thinking about our division manager who is trying to figure out the value of certain components. I know that he's doing that role. I know, maybe the president. So there's discussions that are going on, and the people are there. I'm just not sure we specifically call it a portfolio
These are the
team.
executives making decisions about the
Yes,
existence of the portfolio and about
absolutely.
the
And
running
yeah,
of the portfolio. So they're
yeah,
very
I think the
executive.
people are there, and the discussions are happening, but we don't identify it as that specific team.
Exactly.
We just convene when we need to have the discussion. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and that's not something I can necessarily. And maybe I
Mhm.
could, but that's managing up in that perspective. Just say we're
Exactly.
gonna we're gonna put that team together. So I think it exists, but it's good to identify. It's good for me to identify their roles as such. Not that I'm gonna drive that implementation, but
Mhm.
it's good for me to understand that that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Right. Okay, with this we conclude this chapter, and before we can move on to the next chapter, which is about portfolio capacity and capability management, if you like to take a 5 minute break, we can do that.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay, let's have a 5 minute break, and then I'll be back.
Okay, thanks.